Hey everyone.
Hello, everyone.
We're doing a podcast.
Called Toothbrush.
Why is it called Toothbrush, Will?
It's called Toothbrush because we had no fucking clue what to call it. So we settled on Toothbrush because we're going to be talking about whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, it's just a little bit funny as well. It's a little bit like...
It's a little bit kooky.
It's a little, everyone's like, what's it called? Toothbrush, you know? And you're like, oh...
Yeah, it's going to...
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be like, what? And it's going to get 1 million views.
Everyone's going to be like, what's going to get 1 million views?
Yeah.
So I'm Shay.
I'm Will.
We actually didn't say our names, so it might be good to say that.
True, yeah. You go.
I just said my name.
Far out. I'm Will.
I'm Shay. So we were thinking about what to talk about, and we're just going to talk about lots of random things. But we thought for the first episode, if this becomes a continuing thing, if you like it, you know, and it just gets 1 million views, then we might make a second one. Only if it gets 1 million views.
Big time.
Only.
Big time.
But we thought we would discuss leaving school and what that's kind of like, and have a general kind of chat about, you know, what it's been like and how we think it's not what everyone expects it to be, but in different ways.
No, yeah. And specifically, the impact that kind of watching film and TV shows and their depiction on leaving school, because it's often used as a huge plot device in many films, because it's really good to kind of get the plot moving. It's like there's a time limit on the characters, and they've got to kind of settle all their relationships before they leave school or whatever. So we're going to be looking at kind of how the romanticization of leaving school in film, and how that contrasts to how it really feels like.
And how that romanticization translates into what actually people think about leaving school.
Big time.
Big time.
Big time. Big
Big
time.
time, big dog. Okay. So, William, I'm going to ask you a question. What has the leaving school experience been like? What have you been up to? What are you doing now?
Well, we both went to school in Sydney, and I've recently temporarily moved to Melbourne for college and for a uni course in film and TV, which I am really enjoying. Not to say it hasn't had its issues, because it has, and I think moving to an environment like college can be really overwhelming, especially if you're not sure what you're looking for the 3 years that you're there. And I myself still aren't sure, but that's what I'm up to at the moment. But of course, the pandemic, being back, chilling with a lovely Shay. That's what I'm doing.
And are you going to ask me what I'm doing? Ask me.
No, let's move on. I actually think... No, so what are you doing?
So I am doing a course in Sydney, which is media arts and production, and it's more of a communications course as well. So I'm doing some other stuff with social and political sciences within that, but I'm really enjoying it as much as I can during the pandemic. But it's been good. I'm vibing it. I obviously, the same thing, nothing turns out exactly as you expect it to be, and sometimes that can come with its downs, but it can also come with its positives as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm living at home, but hopefully I'm hoping to move out in the near-ish future. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, the money is always the issue, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is. But we were just going to talk a little bit about high school before we talked about actually leaving. So we were just going to discuss if we actually enjoyed high school. William, you begin.
Well, I'm gonna...
Why am I making this so formal?
William, you begin. No, I'm gonna tennis. Huh?
Okay.
I'm gonna 15 love tennis right back at you, backhand.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy high school? Because I want to hear it from you.
Okay. Well, I think overall, yeah, I really enjoyed my high school. I went to a really good school, in my opinion. I made a lot of good friends that I feel I will be friends with for a really long time. I think for me, especially my year group, it was quite like a nice community, a nice kind of sense of, you know, compassion, and we were all kind of there for each other. And I was involved in a lot of, like, as much things as I could be at the school. So that was always really... made it kind of like a full experience for me. You know, like I was one of those people that just joined all the clubs and stuff. But I think everyone kind of did that at my school, which was nice in a way because everyone was really involved. So I had a really good high school experience. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it was quite a good time. I didn't really understand a lot of people who didn't like. I understood it, but I couldn't relate to people who said that they didn't really like high school or they didn't enjoy it that much, because it was always something that was really fun for me, and I really, really enjoyed. And I was quite nervous about leaving because it was such a exciting kind of fun time for me, and obviously it comes with the stresses, but overall, yeah, really good experience.
So for the most part, it felt like a bit like a second home to you.
Yeah,
so much.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually second home. What about you?
Well, listening to that, I think my high school experience has been a bit different in terms of my school. To put it bluntly, had a lot of opportunity which it gave to its students, but there wasn't a lot of encouragement to seize the opportunity. It's quite a prestigious school, and I don't say that really as a compliment, because unfortunately you get a lot of interesting types there, interesting students from like very upper class backgrounds, and they have, you know, quite unpleasant views on the world and unpleasant methods of treating people, I find, from my school. Not to say that high school wasn't a really awesome time. I think it was, and you know, in the first few years of high school, I really kind of struggled to find my place, and it wasn't great, and it was only until my, you know, even the second half of my final year at high school, till I really felt that it was all worth it. So, yeah, a bit of a mixed experience from my high school, but it was just such an important experience to have when I look back on it as a whole. Even if whilst I was in it, I was waiting for it to end.
I think it'll be interesting to see kind of what we discuss, because our experiences of high school are quite different in many ways, but I also think they're quite similar. Like, I think we've both come out of high school with like some tight friends, like some good friends that we know we'll probably have for a while, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I think high school like definitely comes with its ups and downs. Like, as much as I said that overall my experience was good, there's definitely been some shitty moments, and kind of beginning high school as well, I didn't know anyone going to my school, and there was a whole thing with friends, but you know, by the end I felt very connected to a lot of the girls in my year. I went to an all girls school, but yeah. And then
there's something about leaving high school with all your friends. It's like you're leaving with the best bit in a way.
Yeah,
you've got all your mates, and you're kind of going into the world together. There's something really kind of lovely about that.
But I think as well, like, that leaving with your friends makes it difficult too, because it's like, as much as you're going into the world together, you've kind of grown up in this little environment where you see each other every single day, and then you have to suddenly figure out how to maintain those friendships without the consistent school bringing you together. Even during our final exams, our HSC, we still were brought, even though we weren't technically attending school, we were studying outside of school, we were still brought back together by the fact that we all shared the same exams, we all had to go to them, we all, you know, were studying at the same libraries, that kind of thing. So there still was that sense of community there, and I think as soon as school finishes, it's kind of confusing and a little bit overwhelming to understand where your place is in everyone's lives, because you see them so much at school that it's like, when you leave, you don't know where you kind of fit in everyone's independent world, and it's hard to kind of figure out when you're going to see people and how often you see certain people, because you're so used to seeing everyone so regularly.
That's really true. And I think, you know, as well, if you look at it from a different angle, you have to kind of accept that, you know, once you leave school, some of your friendships are going to absolutely thrive in that new environment of not having to go to class together, and now you get to do what you truly want with them, and those relationships are going to thrive. Others, they require that structure for you to be friends, and you know, and probably some of those relationships will suffer, and some of them will die eventually, and that's just how it works, because it's a test when you leave school. Can your relationship survive without that structure?
Yeah, I think as well, like, I think as much as it sounds kind of like a negative thing to be like those relationships will die or those relationships, you know, but I think as well, like, there there are people who went to my school that I may not consistently see, like, you know, because we weren't necessarily close friends. We were just kind of friends that you see. You're kind of friends by circumstance, but I think it doesn't take away any value from those type of friendships because you've been with someone, you know, like it's a friendship for that period of time, and that's okay, and it doesn't mean that it has to continue forever. And that's not to say that I won't be trying to maintain so many of my friendships because I love so many of the girls that I was friends with there. But some are just like small kind of friendships that are for a certain period of time, and you learn from those friendships and you grow from them, but they're not necessarily for forever. And that's the same with so many other friendships, you know, like you have friendships where like you're friends by circumstance. Say when I did like little athletics outside of school, I had friends that were kind of friends by circumstance. Then when I stopped doing that, I kind of drifted from some of those friends, and that's okay. And it wasn't because we hated each other, and it wasn't because anything bad happened, but it just kind of happens, and that's circumstance and that's life. But it doesn't mean that that wasn't valuable at that point, and it doesn't mean that that value isn't still carried through with you now.
No,
That makes sense.
I think that's very true, and every relationship you learn something from, and it's always going to have a place in your heart. Yeah, I totally agree.
So we're gonna talk about what do you miss most about high school?
What I miss most? I'll let you start with that.
I think again probably the whole community. I think I miss kind of the regularity of it and kind of knowing my way around, because obviously at this point it's so you know, I don't really know kind of where I stand in the new community of university and just my new life. I miss kind of having that regularity. Like I miss, you know, knowing that everyone will be like in the certain locker room before school and you can have a chat, or if you go to the library after school you'll be able to hang out with people. And you know, if there's something on after school, you hang out with your friends before then, you go get something to eat. You know, those little things where you just constantly know people will be around you. Yeah, I miss a lot of classes. I had some really good teachers. I had some really good classes with like a really good group of girls that all got along really well. I was friends with a lot of people in my classes, so it was a really fun environment. I always had a lot of fun at school. Most of the time, obviously, there's a lot of hard times. But I think in those hard times as well, because of that community, you felt consistently and constantly supported by everyone. And I kind of miss that sense of cohesion and everyone kind of being there. And just the little stuff, like where you walk to classes together or you wait for someone at their locker. Like that's really nice kind of stuff that you only kind of get in high school. Yeah, I miss that kind of stuff. And I miss my teachers as well. I loved a lot of my teachers.
I think you really got a point there about how the little stuff adds up. And you know, sometimes I look at my clock and it's 10:30 and I think, oh, I'd be having recess now, but you know, I'd just be getting up because those school days are over. But what I'd say is what I've missed most, back to what I said before, how it was only till the second half of my last year where I realised that high school was worth it for me, was because in my last year, as what happens in many schools, you get a chance at having a leadership role, or even if you don't have a leadership role, you can just be a leader just by being older than all the other kids in the school, and it's a really great opportunity to figure out who you are by guiding the people around you. And I think for me, I really miss that, and I was given such an amazing opportunity to lead a bunch of boys through, you know, one of the most impactful periods of their lives, you know, growing up, and you know, and I was so lucky to be able to give them advice on how, you know, on how to kind of navigate those tricky times of, you know, of puberty and everything, and like relationship anxiety, and just to hear these kids' stories, it was really eye-opening, and I think I really miss that, having these special relationships with kids vastly different ages to me, because that's something I may not get for a while.
Yeah, I think it was nice being in a it's new. It's probably the only, not new, but it's the only time in your life, I guess, that you'll kind of be in a environment where you're in such close proximity with such different stages of development, because I do believe like high school is the time where you change the most probably in your entire life. Like I feel like high school from like year 7 to like year 8 you change, year 8 to year 10, you know, it's just such a big difference. And I would even say from year 11 to year 12 I changed an insane amount. So I think you just change so rapidly and at such a fast pace, and it's really, really interesting to be in close proximity with people who are at such different stages in their life. And I think it's really a rare experience and quite kind of weird when you think about it, because that's the only kind of time that happens. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see it, because you sometimes look at, you know, kids in the younger years, especially when you're older, and think, oh, what are they doing? You know, like, oh,
so
it's easy to fall into that they're annoying, they're weird, they're being stupid. And like, you know what, they probably are, but so was I at that time. Like, I think, yeah, it's just interesting, and you observe as a younger kid, you observe the older years and you think, wow, like, they're amazing, like, oh my god, they're so old. Like, you have this, I remember just being like, wow, like, they just must be so old. And then when you get there, you just don't feel that at all, and you're just kind of like, oh, I'm here now. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to be in such a different kind of community with different kind of people that you probably wouldn't be in most life.
Definitely. And I think what you're saying about how you're put with a bunch of people in your year group, just put with a bunch of other kids, all you've got in common is that you're the same age, and you go through 6 years of the most important 6 years of your life, which define you as a person. You go through that together, and it's an anomaly. And like it links to that quote that Shea and I were just looking at, where it was it pretty much said that the friends you make at uni and college know who you are, but the friends you make at high school know why. And I think it's got certain truth in that, because you've grown up with these kids for 6 years, and they can see the scars that you've had throughout your life and why you've become the certain person you've become by year 12.
But do you think, you know, you said that those 6 years are what shape your life. Do you think that they really are the 6 years that shape your life? Because I don't necessarily, I kind of disagree. I think that it's the most I'm not going to be able to say it, developmental years of your life. I think they're the quickest changing years, but I think definitely I don't know if they necessarily shape you, because I think you can change. I don't think the way that you finish high school is kind of your set kind of person. No. But there is a lot of things that you bring with you from growing up in high school, and I guess you go from being a kid to kind of an adult by the end of it. But I don't know if I would say that it's the most impactful time in your life.
No, I think that's probably a poor choice of words. I think it's a time where you get given a huge amount of experiences in one go. And in comparison to every other stage in your life, it's so jam-packed with different things to experience through the high school structure. And as well, it's at those years where you're really kind of malleable to the things around you, and you're easily kind of not manipulated, but you're easily kind of changed. More so when you're older, I feel like when you're older, you are it's harder to change your ways than when you're that age, I feel like.
Yeah, I think the older you grow, the more you kind of set in your ways. But yeah, no, I agree. I think as well though, like, high school is a very as much as you can be influenced, as much as you can be manipulated, and not manipulated in necessarily a bad way, just manipulated because, you know, you're impressionable, you're trying to grow up, you're trying to change. I think I don't know if I could really say, because I'm only 18, I don't know if I could really say that I won't have experiences where everything will be thrown at me when I'm older. Like, I think about, you know, when people get to their 30s and they start to get married, they start to have kids, they, you know, start choosing their career path, like that kind of stuff. Like, it's obviously a different environment, and you're not all in the same thing with the same people, and that makes it high school very special and kind of different. But I wouldn't say that you're not getting thrown experiences left, right, and center. Like, I think life is just getting experiences thrown at you left, right, and center. It's just in different periods and different environments. So I don't know if I could fully say that high school is, yeah, but I think it feels more intense because you're growing up there, and you're trying to discover yourself while these things are being thrown at you, as opposed to when maybe you're older, you've kind of discovered yourself more. But I don't know if people ever
it's all relative.
I don't know if people ever fully discover themselves. I think a lot of people don't. You know, so like people have midlife crises at like 40 because they're like, I don't know who I am. You know.
Yeah, the classic. Dad.
Dad, if you're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that brings the question of life after school.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't figured out who you are, which is pretty much everyone. Sort of movies. We were thinking about Booksmart in particular.
Mm-hmm.
It was released in 2017, I think.
2017. I can double check that.
2017. I think around 2017. And it's, if you're familiar with the film Superbad, which was 2007, it's very similar in sort of theme. Pretty much, it's just about two girls who, well, this is very basic, but about two girls who are faced with
it was released in 2019.
2019.
I will correct.
2019. It's a very funny film. Shay's a big fan.
I am a big fan. Yeah, so it's just one night where they all. So basically, they just try and, you know, have the best end of their high school experience, because these two girls are kind of nerds, and they're like, wow, we really need to experience high school. So they try and go to like this big party. And did you explain this already? No.
No, I didn't get up to the weird guy on the boat.
Yeah, so they go to all these different they go to different parties, and they have this big night where they're trying to kind of experience life before they leave high school. Experience high school life before they leave, because they feel like they've missed out. But I think it's really interesting the way the movie kind of approaches it. Yeah, do you have a first point to make?
Big time. I would say I really resonated with Booksmart because it's like a lot of parties, and I was pretty cool when I was leaving school. So I was going to a lot of parties, and I just kind of, you know, I was kind of the coolest kind of kid there. So in that respect, big time. I thought it was very kind of relatable.
What was that?
Wanted to show off to the audience.
Yeah. But yeah. I think it was the kind of desperation was really interesting at the end of the movie, at the end of the film, from the beginning of the film, where they just really want to they're so desperate to, you know, get this high school experience and this quote unquote high school experience. And I think that's what kind of makes it interesting, is that it kind of comes to a conclusion at the end, I guess, that there's no real kind of high school experience, and everyone has different experiences. And I think it's easy to look back on those years and be like, wow, I fucked it up, or I messed it up. But I think, you know, it's not that important that it's the way that everyone portrays it to be. But I think leaving school is portrayed in this movie really interestingly, and I suppose not exactly how a lot of other films portray it, because it kind of portrayed it as this thing that is a bit confusing and is very, you know, it's a bit scary. And these two girls have this big argument because they just don't know kind of what their life is going to be like after school. They don't know whether their friendships are going to last. And obviously there's a lot of high school movies portray that whole, I don't know if my friendships will last, but I don't think they really portray the idea of being genuinely a bit confused. And I don't think this movie does it fully either, but I think it does a little bit more than some others.
Yeah, it's probably why it was quite successful. I feel like even more so in Booksmart, I feel like what you're saying about the anxieties of leaving school, that whole question of, you know, when I leave school, what am I leaving behind that I'll never get again? And I think that for a lot of people, that answer to that question, you straight away go to my friends. And when I leave, my friends are gonna, sometimes, that thought can take on many different shapes. Sometimes it's, my friends are gonna go off and I'm gonna be left behind, or, depending on who you are as a person, I feel like there's a lot of times there's some kind of anxiety that you feel about your relationships, which are begun in high school. Do they end at the end of high school? Where do they fit in my life? And I think the film does a good job of doing that, because the two characters have different plans after high school. I think one of them wants to go to Africa, and then the other one just wants to go to college, and really kind of contrasty kind of visions for their life and how they're going to stay together.
Yeah, I think as well, like, it's interesting what a lot of films don't necessarily address in the end of high school experience. There's a lot of focus on the togetherness and friends, and will I maintain relationships with friends, and that kind of whole, like, we're in this together, like High School Musical, like we're all in this together kind of vibes. But I think the interesting thing is the relationship you have with yourself, because you're moving from such an environment where you've been in for so long, and you have this kind of idea of who you are in that environment. You know your place, you know where you belong there, and even if you don't like how you are then, you still know, and there is some kind of, I don't know, certainty and kind of satisfaction in knowing where you are at that point in your life. So I think as soon as we leave, we don't really discuss it. I feel like it's not as discussed as much, that it's like, what am I going to do with my future, and, that kind of stuff. Those are all questions everyone asks and everyone talks about, but it's more just, how do I actually feel about myself, and how do I feel about where I belong and what place I kind of fit in, which all relate to the future questions and will I stay friends and stuff. But I think a lot of what isn't talked about is the relationship you have with yourself.
I definitely agree. And a lot of as well, what a lot of people say is a big difference from high school to uni, is that when these people get to uni, they realize that it doesn't matter if they don't hand in an assignment on time. It doesn't matter if they never ask for help, because this is what they say. They say no one cares about you really in university, like your lecturers, because that's just not the way it works. And I think I feel like for a lot of people, it can be hard to come to that realization that there's not someone really looking out for you in that capacity anymore. Whereas your teachers, they're there to give you a slap on the bum when you're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, I think you think about this whole experience when you leave school, you think about going to uni and stuff when you're younger, as you kind of, at least I did, kind of idealized, is that a word? Idealized myself in a certain way, and I see myself, wow, like I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be this, and you finally get there, and it doesn't feel like this big hit. You don't feel like you've changed that much, obviously, because you're yourself and you're incrementally, slowly changing as you grow, and you don't feel this big kind of like, she's changed. So you don't really feel satisfied. You think you're gonna feel satisfied, and you think you're gonna go, you know what, I've left, this is it, I've made, like, this is what I always thought I was gonna feel like. I knew it was gonna be hard, but I know kind of like where I'm better now, I'm a better person now. And as much as you actually, in retrospect, probably are a better person, you don't feel like it, because you felt these slow kind of changes, and it hasn't felt as impactful as you thought it would.
Definitely. It's not like this full stop. I definitely. And you kind of, well, at least for me, you kind of doubt. There's a lot of doubt on whether you knew who you were, or maybe you didn't, or maybe just you thought you did. As I said, I was like really cool, and then when I left school, I was like, maybe I'm not that cool. And then it turns out I was still really cool, but it took me a while to get to that realization.
Yeah. No, but I think, like, high school's, like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
like just it's just a bit weird. Like, it's just weird. You're in this kind of weird, like, little space, you know, with these people, and you're kind of shoved into a classroom with all these randoms that that's just the same age as you, and you get some idiot, like, you get some weirdos at school, you know? Like, there are just, there's people that you just will never come across, and the only reason you're in such close proximity with this one weird, just a fucking weirdo, is because you go to school with them. Like, it's just weird to think that, you know, like, you would never ever choose, like, I'm not thinking of anyone in particular, but I think everyone can...
Samantha. Jessica.
I think everyone can think of someone in high school where they're just like, wow, that person was a weird one. Like, they were just weird.
Yeah.
And, like, and that's okay. You can be weird, but, like, it's just interesting there's people that you just would never choose to spend your time around.
But you did.
But you just do. You spend 6 years with them, and you're just like, yeah, I know you so well, but I don't necessarily like you. But I just know you. Like, why do I know you so well? I don't care.
Yeah.
This isn't directed at anyone. I feel like I loved a lot of girls about you.
Except for these 30 that I've got on the list on my laptop.
Shut up.
No, I agree. And there's a quote from The Office, the UK version, which I've never forgotten. I think it's in the season finale. And Tim says, the people that you work with, but it's, you know, it's the same with high school, really. He says, you know, the people that you work with, you know, you'd never choose to hang out with them. You've got nothing in common with them, except for the fact that you walk around on the same bit of carpet every day. And there's some, and yet, you know, they're your family, and there's something weird, but also kind of awesome about it. That you know kind of these weird people who you know.
And I feel like you know people, and especially when it hits year 12 and you get onto all this exam stress, you just know people so well, and you know how they react to pressure, and which is just, you can tell a lot about a person with that. You see people just put in, like, the most intense situations, and you see what people kind of used to be like and how they've changed and maybe why they've changed. So you just know people, and you know stories, like, weird little stories. I think that's what we kind of forget about. Like, you know that fucking, I don't know, Jenny, like, one time in year 8 got really drunk and, like...
Is this a real story?
No, I don't know. But, like, Jenny ran around with, like, a hamster in her pocket and went to Woolworths and gave the cashier the hamster.
Wow.
You know? I don't know.
But now we all know who Jenny is.
Well, it was me.
Loser.
I'm Jenny.
Oh, shit.
But, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, little stories where it's just, like...
Yeah, like...
about little people, and it's like, why do I even know that? But it's just because you've been stuck in this kind of...
Yeah,
it's just weird. It's
weird.
really bizarre, and we don't think about how weird it is until you kind of leave, and you're like, well, that was fucking... It's weird.
Yeah, and then you know, when you're meeting people at university, sometimes it's hard to remember the fact that they don't know anything.
Yeah.
And, like, even if you're, like, striking up new conversations with new people who you don't really talk to at high school, they still know things about you.
Yeah, they know who you were, like... They know who you were in year 7. They know who you were in year 10. Like, they know that, you know, that one time you stood up at assembly and you kind of stuttered on your words. Like, they know that you are maybe, you're really bad at swimming, you know, or you're like me. That's actually me. Or, you know, you know, they know that you hate drama, or they know that you know, all these different things that they can just work out by just being around someone. So it's weird when you get, you're right, like when you get to uni, it's like, this person actually knows nothing about me. And it's interesting to see because, you know, sometimes I act in a certain way and I'm like, wait, that's not, they don't know.
They don't expect that from you.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird, I've come up with that a lot recently with trying to make new mates at uni, is that, you know, you've got to kind of really, because they don't know those stories about you that people at high school do, you've got to put all that on the line in order to get all that stage. Well, I feel like, for me personally, that's what I've had to do, is I've had to open myself up more, to share more things about myself, because it's easy to forget that these people have no idea, you know, you're just a face to them. And if you don't put in a real effort, then they're never really going to know who you are. So, or that's not really a piece of advice for everyone, but for me, that's what I've come up against, I feel like.
Yeah. I think people just kind of, you work, like, I think as well, though, you don't have to kind of but you don't have to share as much as you feel like you would need to. Like, I'm a big oversharer and I tell people everything, but I don't even need to, because you don't need to give people context for your life. but you feel like you have to because everyone you've met and everyone you know in high school has had that context. So you're like, how can I make friends without them knowing that context? It's kind of a weird thing to think about.
Yeah. It takes a while to get used to. I feel like I'm still in that process.
Yeah, no, me too.
Strike
Definitely.
the balance. Yeah,
Definitely.
I haven't weirded anyone out. But as I said, I'm pretty cool, so it's pretty easy for me.
This is a good joke that you're continuing.
I actually think it's really funny. How about you?
Oh,
You
no,
don't
I
think
think
it's
it's
funny?
like, it's kind of funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let us know in the comments.
Down below. If you guys think Will's joke was funny, that he's cool. It's actually extra funny for me because he's actually not. So.
That's so rude.
Do we have anything else to... What do you miss least about high school? How about we end on that?
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else to add, of course.
Oh, I just have a bunch of cool stories, but I'll just skip those.
Yeah.
Get straight to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Jenny sounds like a right old legend, by the way. Like, bloody Jenny got drunk on the weekend and bloody took a hamster to the cashier. Bloody hell.
Story came to the top of my head, but it sounded quite specific.
Give me a Facebook afterwards.
Yeah, I'll show you Jenny's Facebook.
Cool.
What are you
What
going
did
to
you
miss
say?
least about high school?
Least.
Fucking the weird cunts, everyone there.
Yeah, oh mate, don't get me started. No, probably this is gonna sound really.
You just say one specific person. You're like...
Yeah, Sam.
Was it someone called Sam at your school?
There actually was. So if you're listening, you were okay. Don't worry, it's not about you. I just chose your name as a joke. I would say what I missed the least is, this is gonna sound really specific, but soccer training. It was a nightmare. We would rock up to soccer training twice a week, and the coaches wouldn't even want to coach us. They'd just set up a few shitty cones and tell us to play soccer for an hour and a half. And get this, if we didn't rock up, even in year 12 where we have to do exams, if we didn't rock up, we'd get a Saturday detention where we'd have to come into school on a Saturday for 3 hours. It was bullshit.
3 hours?
3 hours. It was crap.
Bruh.
Yeah.
Bruh, like, doing subjects that, like, you kind of liked, but there's some aspects of it that you're like, why do I even need to do this? You know? Like,
Yeah.
you're just like, I had to choose something and I chose this. And it's like, why? You know, like, I'm trying to think of an example. I kind of liked my subject, but, like, some things just, like, I just don't. Like, some things I'm like, I know, like, English. I was like, I know this. I get it.
Oh.
I could hands down explain this to you, but I can't write it in your stupid fucking
I know.
essay format, and I don't give a shit. And I know you kind of have to do that at uni, but you choose such specific subjects that you really like, so you kind of feel okay with it. Whereas when it's like a compulsory subject, and I liked English, but I still just didn't. I just couldn't deal with like just certain things, or like, you know, when you just like school, sometimes you just I was so tired always after school. Like, I got home and I was dead.
Yeah.
Like, you wake up, like, because my school's semi-far away, like, I woke up at 6:30. I get to school, like, and you get there and then you have stuff after school and you get home at, like, 5:30 if you had sport or something, maybe even later, and you're just dead. Like, you have nothing left in you and you have to study. So there's I have nothing more to give. And then you do it again and you wake up and you're more tired and you're just dead the whole time. Some days at school, I just was dead the whole day. I don't think I had any ounce of energy.
Like for 6 classes a day, you just wouldn't listen in any of them.
I would just be staring at a wall.
Literally.
Like, just being tired all the time, I think. Like, I was just, especially the last years of high school, I think I was just always tired. I don't think I was ever rested. And like, that sounds really fucked to say, but I can't remember a day where I was like, I'm not tired.
Well, actually, we had pretty different experiences because I kind of gave up halfway through year 12, so I started getting back to sleep. 10-hour sleeps on a Wednesday night. It was fucking awesome. But yeah.
Well, you know.
Yeah, but that's to say that, look, we talk a lot about life after school kind of being confusing and whatnot, but on the other hand, don't let it get you down because leaving school,
it's all good.
It is.
Everyone feels like that.
Yeah, and like there are things about high school which you definitely won't miss.
Like waiting for your ATAR, or everyone talking about ATARs all the time. Don't care. ATAR is New South Wales equivalent of your mark.
Shit.
Your mark. Yeah, your horse shit. It's equivalent of just like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Just, it's so disgusting and it's always there and people's always throwing this shit around in your face. And you just get shit in your face because everyone's always talking about it. It's like, shut up, I don't care. You know? I don't miss that.
Definitely. No one cares. Like, literally, you get it back on the day, and then
you talk about it for a week, and then no one gives a shit anymore, and you're like, wow. I talked about this for like 4 years just to like...
Yeah, just to kind of get it. You talked about it for a week? I was like... Texted a mate, I was like, got this. And then they're like, oh, do you want to play Fortnite? I was like, yeah, bro. Fortnite. And we talked more about where we're going to drop on Fortnite more than we talked about my
Snipers only.
Yeah, snipers only, gold only guns. Mate, it was fucking awesome.
Anyways. Is that the end? This was toothbrush.
No, it was toothbrush.
This was toothbrush. I'm Will. I mean, I'm
Oh, God, well
I'm
done.
Shay.
I'm Will.
And
I'm Shay. Oh, no, sorry.
Wait, so we go, okay, we're going to go on the count of 3. I'm Shay. I'm Will. And this was toothbrush. Ready?
Okay, wait, are we doing this was toothbrush in unison?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
Shay.
I'm
No,
Will.
you intro. I'm Shay.
I'm Will.
And this was toothbrush.
That was kind of cringe.
That was disgusting. I actually hated it.